"You look like you came for the beginner self-defense class," Derek Lawson said, loud enough for everyone in the dojo to hear. Naomi Brooks stood near the front desk holding a youth registration form in one hand and her nephew's backpack strap in the other. She was 32, black, quiet, and dressed in a faded gray hoodie, worn jeans, and plain sneakers with a scuffed left toe. Her hair was pulled back. Her face held no anger. Beside her, 11-year-old Ethan stared at the polished wooden floor, trying to make his shoulders smaller. Around them, the dojo smelled of clean mats, sweat, cedarwood, and the faint sharpness of disinfectant. Bare feet slapped against tatami. Belts snapped. Parents watched from a row of folding chairs near the wall. A small security camera blinked red above the framed code of conduct. Derek, the dojo's most admired black belt, looked Naomi up and down and smiled. "Maybe you should sign up too," he said. "You don't look like someone who can protect herself." A few students laughed. Naomi only breathed once, slowly. Derek stepped onto the center mat and spread his arms like the room belonged to him. "Come on," he said. "Just for fun. I'll go easy." Naomi almost walked away. She had spent 9 years avoiding mats, avoiding bows, avoiding the sound of bodies hitting the floor. But then Ethan lowered his head and something in her chest tightened. Not pride, not anger, something older. Within 2 minutes, Derek Lawson would be flat on the mat, unable to move without hurting himself, while every student in the room wondered how a woman in old sneakers had dismantled their best black belt without throwing a single hard strike. But at 6:14 p.m. inside Crescent Lake Dojo, Derek still thought he had found someone safe to humiliate. That was his mistake. Crescent Lake Dojo sat on the corner of Meridian Avenue and 11th Street in Portland, Oregon, tucked between a family dental clinic and a closed bike repair shop. From the sidewalk, it looked modest. Wide glass windows, a small wooden sign, a row of shoes lined neatly by the entrance, and a paper notice taped beside the door. Community Open House, Youth Confidence Program, Friday, 5:30 to 7 p.m. First lesson free with guardian waiver. Naomi had read that notice 3 times before stepping inside. Not because she was unsure of the address, because the word dojo still had weight. It had taken her years to be able to stand outside one without feeling her hands remember things her heart wanted to forget. Ethan stood beside her with his hood pulled up, even though it was not raining. "Do we have to go in?" he asked. Naomi looked down at him. "No." He glanced through the window at the students moving across the mat. "They'll all be better than me. That's usually why people take lessons." He did not smile. Naomi softened. "Ethan, we are not here so you can learn how to hurt anyone." His fingers tightened around the backpack strap. "I know. We are here so you can learn how not to fold yourself in half every time someone louder walks into the room." He looked away. On his right wrist, half hidden beneath his sleeve, was a yellow bruise shaped like a thumb. Naomi saw it. She did not grab his arm. She did not demand names. She had learned that shame becomes heavier when adults try to pull it out in public. So she only said, "You can stand next to me the whole time." Ethan nodded. Then they went inside. At first, nobody noticed them. The dojo was busy in the way disciplined places become busy. Children practiced break falls in one corner. Teenagers drilled footwork near the mirrors. Adults stretched against the wall. A mother filled out forms at the front desk, while a younger child played with a loose belt on the bench. On the back wall hung framed photographs of tournaments, seminar certificates, and a large black and white portrait of Master Kenji Tanaka as a younger man, standing beside 2 students with bruised shins and enormous smiles. Beneath it was a polished wooden plaque. Crescent Lake Dojo Code of Conduct. Control before power. Respect before rank. Humility before victory. Naomi read that last line longer than the others. Humility before victory. Some places painted truth on walls. Whether they lived by it was another matter. Behind the desk, a woman in a navy gi looked up from a laptop. "Welcome. Are you here for the youth open house?" "Yes," Naomi said. "For my nephew." The woman smiled at Ethan. "What's your name?" Ethan looked at Naomi. She waited. "Ethan," he said quietly. "Nice to meet you, Ethan. I'm Maya Rivera. I help with beginner students on Fridays." Maya was maybe 24, brown-skinned, athletic, with her dark hair braided close to her scalp and a green belt tied neatly at her waist. Her voice had warmth in it, but her eyes were observant, not soft, observant. She slid a clipboard across the counter. Guardian name here, student name here, medical notes if any. The waiver explains basic contact, fall training, and safety policy. We don't allow sparring for new youth students without instructor approval. Naomi nodded. Good. Maya noticed the way Naomi said that word, not casual, measured, like a person checking whether a bridge could hold weight. Naomi began filling out the form. Student, Ethan Brooks, age 11. Guardian present, Naomi Brooks. Emergency contact, Rochelle Brooks. Reason for enrollment, confidence, discipline, self-protection. Her pen stopped at self-protection. Ethan looked at the mat. A teenage boy in a black belt snapped a kick against a pad, and the room broke into applause. That was Derek Lawson, 26 years old, tall, broad-shouldered, handsome in a sharp-edged way. His black belt was worn enough to look legitimate, but displayed enough to make sure everyone saw it. He moved fast. He struck hard. Students watched him. Parents whispered about him. Kids wanted to be near him until they had to partner with him. He loved admiration. He called it leadership. Derek drove a red Dodge Charger with tinted windows and a rear bumper sticker that said, "Earn your fear." He taught advanced teen drills twice a week, assisted in adult sparring classes, and posted clips of himself on social media with captions about discipline and dominance. His followers called him a beast. Younger students called him Sir, though Master Tanaka had told him twice to stop encouraging that. That evening, Derek had just finished dropping a blue belt with a fast sweep during a demonstration. The blue belt, Aaron Kim, laughed when he hit the mat, but it was the kind of laugh people use when getting embarrassed feels safer than looking upset. Derek pulled him up. "You have to want it, Aaron," he said. Aaron nodded, face red. "Yes, man. Not man, sensei." A few teenagers laughed. Master Tanaka, who stood near the far wall speaking with a parent, looked over. He saw it. He always saw it. But seeing something and correcting it at the right moment were different disciplines. At 71, Kenji Tanaka moved more quietly than anyone in the room. His hair was white, his back slightly bent, but his eyes remained sharp enough to cut through noise. He had run Crescent Lake Dojo for 38 years, long enough to teach children who later returned with children of their own. He believed the mat revealed character faster than conversation. And Derek's character had been troubling him for months. Talented, disciplined when watched, cruel when admired. Master Tanaka had warned him the week before. "Derek, a black belt is not proof that you stand above others. It is proof that you must kneel lower to help them rise." Derek had bowed. "Yes, Master." But his eyes had already moved toward the mirror. Now, as Naomi finished Ethan's form, Derek noticed her. At first, he noticed the usual things: old hoodie, simple jeans, no athletic bag, no confident posture, at least not the kind he recognized. A quiet woman with a nervous boy. In Derek's world, that meant harmless. And harmless people were useful. They made his strength look bigger. He walked toward the front desk, wiping sweat from his neck with a towel. "Maya," he said, "new students?" Maya looked up. "Ethan is here for the youth program." Derek's eyes moved to Ethan. The boy looked down immediately. Derek smiled, not kindly. "You nervous, little man?" Ethan shrugged. Naomi's pen stopped moving. Derek leaned one elbow on the counter. "No shame in being nervous. Everybody starts somewhere. Some people just start very far back." Maya's face tightened. "Derek." "What? I'm encouraging him." Naomi finished signing the form. "We're only here to observe today." Derek looked at her. For the first time, really looked. Observe?
Yes.
You his mom?
Aunt.
Ah.
The way he said it made the words smaller.
Naomi slid the clipboard back to Maya. Derek tilted his head. You ever trained? Naomi looked at him calmly.
A little.
Maya glanced at her. Something in Naomi's answer made her look twice, not the words, the lack of performance. Derek laughed. A little is dangerous. Naomi said nothing. Derek turned to the teenagers near the mat. Everybody hear that? A little. A few students laughed because Derek laughed. Naomi's eyes moved briefly to the wall plaque. Humility before victory. Derek followed her gaze and smirked. We take safety seriously here. People come in thinking they know something because they watched videos, took a kickboxing class, maybe did a little cardio self-defense at the gym. Then they freeze the second pressure starts. Ethan's shoulders rose toward his ears. Naomi saw it. Still, she kept her voice level. That's why we came to a school. Derek's smile widened. Oh, this is a school. He stepped back from the desk and gestured toward the mat. And sometimes the lesson is simple. Confidence has to be tested. Maya closed the laptop halfway. Derek, this is registration. I'm helping. No, you're showing off. The words slipped out before she could soften them. Several students heard. Derek's eyes flashed. Maya had said too much, and she knew it. Derek had embarrassed her in drills before. Not obviously enough for formal discipline, just enough. A harder throw than needed, a joke about reaction time, a comment about women needing twice the precision because they had half the power. She had swallowed those moments because she wanted her next belt test, because Derek had influence, because silence often disguises itself as patience. Derek turned from Maya back to Naomi. Tell you what, he said. Since you've trained a little, step on the mat. The room shifted. Parents looked over. Teenagers stopped stretching. Aaron Kim sat up from where he had been rubbing his shoulder. Naomi remained still. No, thank you. Derek laughed again. Relax. I said I'll go easy. I did not ask whether you would. A small silence. Master Tanaka's eyes narrowed across the room. Derek's smile thinned. You afraid? Naomi looked at Ethan. His face had gone tight with embarrassment, not because his aunt was being challenged, because every person in the room was now looking at them the way students had looked at him in the cafeteria when two boys cornered him near the trash cans and asked why he walked like he expected to be hit. Derek took another step onto the mat. Come on, he said loudly. Community open house, demonstration opportunity. A normal person against a trained black belt. Educational. Martin, one of the teen students, chuckled. Don't hurt her, Derek. Maya said sharply, Enough. Derek ignored her. He lifted his hands in a loose guard and bounced on the balls of his feet. It's just for fun. Naomi's jaw tightened. There were words she hated. Just a joke. Just practice. Just pressure. Just fun. People used them after causing damage, as if naming cruelty lightly made it weigh less. Naomi looked at Ethan again. He was staring at the floor now, his small hand gripping the backpack strap so hard his knuckles had paled. If she left, he would leave with her. Safe, unhurt. But he would also learn that a loud person could turn a room against you and make dignity feel like retreat. Naomi had spent years telling herself that walking away was control. Sometimes it was, but not always. At 6:17 p.m., she placed the registration pen on the desk. The tiny click echoed in her own ears. Then she unzipped her gray hoodie. Maya whispered, Ma'am, you don't have to.
Naomi folded the hoodie over the back of a chair. Beneath it, she wore a plain black t-shirt. Nothing about her looked dramatic. No tattoos announcing combat, no compression gear, no old tournament shirt, no belt, no proof. Only her posture changed, barely. Her shoulders settled, her breathing dropped lower. Her feet adjusted on the wooden floor before she stepped onto the edge of the mat. Master Tanaka saw it. His expression changed. Not much. Enough. Derek did not see it. He was too busy smiling at the room. Naomi bent and removed her sneakers, placing them side by side with the toes facing the wall. Ethan watched the carefulness of it. Then she stepped onto the tatami, barefoot. The room grew quieter. Not silent yet, just less careless. Naomi walked to the center of the mat.
Derek gave an exaggerated bow, shallow and fast, the kind meant to satisfy etiquette without carrying respect. Naomi bowed properly, spine straight, eyes lowered just enough, hands calm. Master Tanaka stopped moving. Maya noticed him notice. Derek bounced lightly. Rules are simple. Light contact. I'll show basic pressure. You try not to panic. Naomi looked at him. Do you always explain rules after choosing the opponent? A few students inhaled softly. Derek's face tightened. Cute. Master Tanaka stepped forward. Derek? The room paused. His voice was not loud. It did not need to be. This is not sparring. This is an open house with unregistered guests. The waiver has not been processed. Derek looked annoyed, but covered it with a grin. Just a movement demonstration, Master. No contact. I'll keep it safe. Master Tanaka's gaze moved to Naomi. Most people, when challenged publicly, showed something before the movement began. Fear, anger, pride, performance. Naomi showed none of those, only waiting. Master Tanaka's eyes lowered to her feet. Left foot light, right hip relaxed, weight centered but not planted. Not a beginner, not even close. Ms. Brooks, he said, do you consent to a controlled demonstration? Naomi looked at Ethan, then at Derek, then at the students who had laughed. Yes, she said. Controlled. The word landed with meaning only one or two people understood. Maya's eyes sharpened. Derek clapped once. All right then. A student near the wall lifted his phone to record. Clara, the front desk assistant, shook her head. No filming without permission. It's fine, Derek said. Master Tanaka turned. No filming. The phone lowered, but the security camera above the code of conduct kept blinking red. That mattered later. Derek rolled his shoulders. Ready? Naomi did not raise her hands high. She did not bounce. She did not pose. Her left hand hovered open near her center line. Her right hand stayed relaxed, not clenched. Her eyes did not fix on Derek's face. They watched his whole body, the way a person watches weather. Derek mistook calm for hesitation. He stepped in fast, too fast for a demonstration. His right hand shot toward her shoulder, meant to tap, shove, and make her stumble backward for the room to see. Naomi moved, not backward, not away, inside. Her left foot slid half a step, her body turned like a door on a quiet hinge, and Derek's hand passed through the empty space where she had been. Before anyone could process the miss, Naomi's wrist touched his forearm. Not grabbed, touched. His balance changed. His confident forward pressure found nothing solid to push against. His lead foot crossed too far. His shoulder rotated past his hip. For one fraction of a second, Derek's eyes widened. Naomi let him feel the mistake.
Then she released. Derek stumbled 2 steps and caught himself before falling. A few students laughed instinctively, not at Naomi, at the surprise. Derek's face flushed. He turned back quickly. "Slippery," he said. Naomi said nothing. The dojo grew quieter. Ethan lifted his head. Maya stopped breathing for a moment. Master Tanaka's eyes did not leave Naomi's hands. He had seen that movement before. Not exactly, but enough. Years earlier, a national final. A woman in a white gi moving with frightening patience, letting stronger fighters defeat themselves against her timing. The Quiet Storm. But that name had disappeared from tournament brackets after one terrible night. Derek stepped forward again, smile gone now. "Again." Master Tanaka's voice cut in. "Derek, control." "I am in control." But he was not. Everyone could hear it. This time, Derek moved harder, not full force, but far beyond fun. He reached for a collar tie that was not there, then tried to hook Naomi's arm and turn her toward the mat. Naomi's expression did not change. She stepped with him. For half a second, they seemed almost still. Then Derek's own momentum folded beneath him. His feet left the mat just enough. His back hit tatami with a sound that cracked through the dojo. Thud. Everything stopped. Derek lay on his back, staring at the ceiling. Naomi stood above him, calm, hands open, not even breathing hard. She had not struck him. She had not slammed him. She had simply removed the place where his arrogance expected resistance. The whole dojo went silent. And in that silence, Ethan Brooks looked at his aunt as if he was seeing her for the first time. Part 2. The Quiet Endurance. To understand why Naomi Brooks stepped onto that mat, you had to go back 9 hours. At 7:08 that morning, Ethan Brooks sat at his mother's kitchen table with a bowl of cereal turning soft in front of him. He was dressed for school, but nothing about him looked ready. His backpack sat unopened near his chair. His hoodie sleeves were pulled down over both hands, even though the apartment was warm. Through the thin curtains, morning light fell across the small dining area in pale stripes, touching the unpaid electricity notice on the counter, the chipped blue mug beside the sink, and the school folder Naomi had noticed the second she walked in. Jefferson Middle School Student Safety Follow-Up Incident Report. JMS-11-2047. Parent/Guardian Review requested. Naomi did not pick it up at first. She knew how shame worked. It hated being grabbed. Her older sister, Rochelle, stood by the stove stirring oatmeal she had already forgotten to season. She worked nights as a patient transport coordinator at St. Vincent Medical Center, which meant she often came home smelling faintly of sanitizer, coffee, and exhaustion. Her eyes were swollen from lack of sleep. Naomi entered quietly. "Morning." Ethan looked up. For 1 second, he almost smiled. Then he remembered his own face and looked down again. "Hey, Aunt Naomi." She hung her denim jacket on the back of a chair and sat beside him. Not across from him. Beside, there was a difference. "You eating or negotiating with that cereal?" Ethan pushed the bowl slightly. "Not hungry." Rochelle turned from the stove. "He's been saying that all week." Naomi looked at Ethan's sleeves. The left one covered his wrist completely. "Rough week?" He shrugged. It was not an answer. It was a wall. Naomi waited. Most adults attacked silence because silence made them feel powerless. Naomi had learned that silence was often the only room a frightened child had left. After almost a minute, Ethan whispered, "I don't want to fight." Naomi's eyes stayed on the table. "Good." He looked at her, surprised. "I thought you'd say I should stand up for myself." Standing up and fighting are not the same thing. Rochelle's spoon stopped moving. Ethan looked down again. They pushed me by the lockers. Naomi said nothing. One of them said I walk like I'm scared. The room became very quiet. Naomi felt something old shift in her chest. Not memory yet. The shadow before memory. Ethan pulled his sleeve higher without thinking, and the bruise showed. Yellow at the edges, purple near the center, shaped like fingers. Rochelle turned away quickly, one hand over her mouth. Naomi saw that too. A mother's guilt has a sound even when it says nothing. Ethan tugged the sleeve back down. I didn't tell because then they'll know I told. Naomi nodded slowly. That makes sense. Rochelle looked at her. Naomi? I'm not saying it's okay, Naomi said gently. I'm saying his fear makes sense. Ethan blinked. Nobody had said that to him yet. The school counselor had said, use your voice. The assistant principal had said, report unsafe behavior immediately. His mother had said, why didn't you tell me sooner? All of them meant well, but Naomi was the first person to tell him his fear was not stupid. That mattered. She picked up the incident report then. According to the form, the locker hallway camera had captured physical contact between students at 12:42 p.m. on Wednesday. 2 seventh graders, Mason Reed and Tyler Fenton, had been given lunch detention. Ethan had been advised to seek adult assistance when needed. The email subject printed at the top read, Subject, follow-up required, peer conflict/Jefferson Middle School. Naomi read the phrase peer conflict twice. Then she placed the paper down. Peer conflict, she said softly. Rochelle's jaw tightened. That's what they called it. Ethan stared at his cereal. It wasn't a fight. I didn't do anything. Naomi looked at him. I believe you. His eyes lifted. Not fully. Enough. Rochelle sat down at the table. The counselor suggested a confidence program, something structured, not aggressive, maybe martial arts. There's an open house tonight at Crescent Lake Dojo. At the word dojo, Naomi's hand became still. Only for a second, but Rochelle saw it. Sisters see the small things strangers miss. You don't have to take him, Rochelle said quietly. I can ask Mrs. Alvarez from downstairs. Naomi folded the school report carefully along its original crease. No, I'll take him. Ethan looked at her. You know about karate? A little. The same answer she would give Derek hours later. Rochelle's eyes softened with sadness. She knows enough. Naomi did not respond. She stood and walked to the sink, rinsing a cup that was already clean. Sometimes people do that when their hands need somewhere to put pain. Behind her, Ethan asked, Will they teach me how to punch hard? Naomi turned off the faucet. They should teach you how to breathe first. He frowned. That doesn't sound useful. It is the first thing fear steals. At 8:03, after Ethan left for school and Rochelle went to sleep before her night shift, Naomi remained alone in the apartment. The kitchen was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. On the table lay the dojo flyer Rochelle had printed from the public library. Crescent Lake Dojo, Youth Confidence Program Instructor, Master Kenji Tanaka. Open house check-in, 5:30 p.m. Guardian waiver required. Naomi touched the paper, but did not lift it. For 9 years, she had built a life around not entering rooms with mats. She worked as a medical records coordinator at a community clinic on East Burnside Street. She typed insurance codes, scanned patient histories, answered phones, and helped elderly patients fill out forms they could not read without glasses. It was steady work, quiet work, useful work. Nobody at the clinic knew that she had once stood in national finals. Nobody knew the name newspapers used for her, the Quiet Storm. Nobody knew there was an old cedar box under her bed containing medals wrapped in a towel, a cracked tournament badge, and a black belt she had not touched since the night everything changed. Naomi walked to her bedroom. For a long time she stood beside the bed without kneeling. Then she did. The cedar box was pushed against the wall, behind winter boots and a folded blanket. Dust clung to the lid. Her name was written on a piece of athletic tape across the top. Naomi Brooks, National Open, 2015. Her fingers hovered over the latch. Then she opened it. The smell came first. Old cloth, leather, a faint trace of matte disinfectant that could not possibly still be there, but memory has its own chemicals. Inside was the black belt, folded once, not displayed, not framed, folded like something dangerous. Beside it lay a photograph of Naomi at 23, white gi, dark eyes, shoulders relaxed, a gold medal around her neck. Her coach, Raymond Ray Ellis, stood beside her with one hand raised in celebration. On the back of the photo, in Ray's blocky handwriting, were the words, "Strength is not the problem. Ego is." Naomi sat back on her heels. Ray had said that after every tournament. When she won too easily, when she lost too angrily, when the crowd cheered too loudly, when she began to believe silence meant control. "Strength is not the problem," he would say. "Ego is. Power without humility becomes an accident waiting for a witness." At 23, Naomi had understood the words. At 24, she had learned what they meant. The final match had been held in Seattle, March 14, 2015, at the Pacific Northwest Martial Arts Championship. Mat 3, 8:41 p.m., final round. Opponent, Lena Voss. Fast, aggressive, talented, and too willing to turn every exchange into a collision. The injury came in the last 30 seconds, a scramble, a counter, a bad landing. The sound of the crowd changing from excitement to horror. Naomi still heard it sometimes in dreams. Lena survived. She walked again. She later said publicly that Naomi had not fought dirty. But headlines do not care for nuance. Black female fighter under review after devastating final. The Quiet Storm or Too Dangerous?
Women's division rocked by controversy.
The review cleared Naomi. The commission report stated there was no malicious action, illegal technique, or intentional misconduct. Case file PNW-2015-FINAL-M3. Decision: no fault assigned. Recommendation: safety review for mat boundary enforcement. It did not matter. By then, Naomi had already stopped answering calls, stopped training, stopped teaching, stopped touching the belt. Not because she believed she was guilty in the way strangers accused her, because she had felt, in one terrible instant, how thin the line could be between skill and harm. And she had feared the part of herself that wanted to win before it wanted to protect. At 8:29 that morning, Naomi placed the black belt back inside the box. Then she took out something smaller. Not a medal, not a trophy. A white cotton belt, old and frayed. Her first belt. Ray had given it back to her after her black belt promotion. "Keep this," he told her. "Black belts forget what white belts remember. Everybody begins vulnerable." Naomi held the white belt in her lap for a long time. Ethan's bruise came back to her, his lowered head, his voice saying, "I don't want to fight, but I don't want to be scared forever." Naomi folded the white belt and placed it in her bag, not to show anyone, to remind herself. At 5:02 p.m., she picked Ethan up outside Rochelle's building. He had his hood up again. "How was school?" "Fine." She knew it was not, but she did not press. On the bus to Crescent Lake Dojo, Ethan sat by the window while Naomi stood beside him holding the overhead rail. A group of teenagers laughed near the back of the bus, and Ethan's body tightened before his mind could tell it not to. Naomi saw that too. She wanted, suddenly and violently, to give him a world where children did not have to scan rooms for danger. But there are no clean worlds, only people willing to stand differently inside them.
At 5:38, they reached Crescent Lake Dojo. At 6:14, Derek Lawson decided she was safe to mock. At 6:17, Naomi stepped onto the mat. And at 6:18, Derek hit the tatami for the first time. The silence after that fall did not last long. Derek made sure of it. He rolled to one side and pushed himself up too quickly. His face had gone red, not from impact, but from the humiliation of surprise. The students around the mat stared at him with expressions he had never enjoyed seeing directed his way. Concern, confusion, doubt. He laughed, a sharp, fake sound. "Okay," he said. "Nice trick." Naomi stepped back. It was not a trick. Derek's smile twitched. "Sure." Master Tanaka stepped forward. "That is enough." But Derek barely heard him. His ears were full of his own pulse. He had built his place in the dojo on certainty. Certainty that he was stronger than the people he teased, faster than the people he corrected, more deserving than the people he intimidated into admiration. Now, a woman in old sneakers had put him on his back without effort. In front of Maya, in front of the teens, in front of parents, in front of Ethan, the nervous boy he had decided was small. That was more than Derek could swallow. He adjusted his belt. "Again," Master Tanaka's voice hardened. "No," Derek turned. "With respect, Master, she agreed to a demonstration. Let's demonstrate properly." Maya spoke from near the desk. "Derek, you're embarrassed. Stop." His eyes snapped toward her. "You don't know what you're talking about." Maya's face changed, not fear exactly, recognition. She had seen that tone before. During partner drills when he told her she was too cautious. During sparring when he hit harder after she scored a clean point. During belt prep when he said, "If you want respect, stop moving like someone asking permission." She had laughed then because other people laughed. She had called it tough coaching. But now, seeing Naomi stand calm in the middle of the mat, Maya understood something uncomfortable. She had been calling cruelty discipline, because admitting the truth would require action. Naomi looked at Ethan. He had not moved. His eyes were wide, but not with fear now, with attention. The kind of attention children give when the world is teaching them something before adults can explain it. Naomi turned back to Derek. "No more." Derek scoffed. "Of course." The room heard the accusation beneath the words. "You got lucky. You were afraid to continue. You know I would win if it mattered." Naomi could have ignored him. She should have ignored him. But then Derek looked at Ethan and smiled. "See, little man? That's another lesson. People quit while they're ahead." Ethan's face fell. That did it. Not loudly, not dramatically. Naomi simply straightened. The movement was so small most people missed it. Master Tanaka did not. He saw her choose. Naomi looked at Derek. "One more exchange." Master Tanaka stepped closer. "Ms. Brooks?" She turned to him. "I will control it." The words were calm, not boastful, not pleading. A promise. Master Tanaka studied her for half a second longer. Then he gave the smallest nod. Controlled. Derek smiled. He believed the nod was permission.
He did not understand it was a warning. This time he did not bounce. He set his jaw and came in harder, trying to erase the first exchange with force. His right hand reached high, his left foot stepped across. His shoulder committed too soon. Everything about him announced his intention before he arrived. Naomi saw all of it. She waited until the last safe instant, then she turned. Her arm threaded beneath his, her hip shifted out of the line of force, and her hand guided his wrist downward as if closing a door someone had opened too carelessly. Derek's body followed his ego. His knees bent, his balance vanished.
Naomi lowered him to the mat without impact, rotating his arm into a pin so clean that by the time he realized he was down, he was already unable to rise. No slam, no strike, no pain beyond pressure. Just truth. Derek lay face down, one cheek against the mat, his arm controlled at an angle that allowed no movement without discomfort. Naomi's knee was nowhere near his spine. Her weight was minimal. Her control was absolute. The whole dojo went silent again. This time, it stayed silent. Master Tanaka stared at the position. Maya whispered, "How?" Aaron Kim's mouth hung open. Ethan took one step forward. Naomi released Derek immediately and backed away. She bowed. Derek stayed on the mat for a second longer than he needed to, not because he was hurt, because he had to decide what kind of story he would tell himself when he stood up. Finally, he pushed to his knees. His face was dark with embarrassment. "Lucky twice," he muttered. But nobody laughed with him. That was when Derek first understood the room had moved without him. Part 3. The pressure escalates. Derek Lawson stood slowly. He rubbed his shoulder once, even though Naomi had not heard it. That was the most embarrassing part. If she had bruised him, he could have blamed force. If she had slammed him, he could have blamed aggression. If she had celebrated, he could have called her disrespectful. But she had done none of those things. She had guided him down like a teacher correcting a misplaced chair. And now the whole dojo knew it. The silence around Derek was not sympathy. It was recognition. The students had seen him push too far, seen him mock a guest, seen him turn a registration visit into a public test of his own ego. And they had seen him lose. Twice. Naomi stood near the center of the mat with her hands relaxed at her sides. Her breathing was steady. Not shallow, not proud, not theatrical. Her face held the same calm it had held when she filled out Ethan's form. That calm made Derek angrier than a taunt would have. Master Tanaka stepped onto the mat. "Demonstration is over." Derek gave a short laugh. "Master, with respect, she's obviously trained. She should have said that." Naomi turned her head slightly. "I told you I trained a little." A few students looked at one another. Maya almost smiled, but stopped herself. Derek heard the movement of the room. Not laughter exactly. Worse. The sound of people beginning to understand the joke had turned around. He pointed toward Naomi. "That wasn't beginner movement. She came in here pretending to be harmless." Ethan flinched at the word harmless. Naomi saw it. Her eyes changed for the first time. Still calm, but colder. "I came in here to register a child." Derek looked toward the front desk, then at the parents along the wall. He was searching for support now. A minute earlier, support had been automatic. People laughed because he laughed. Students watched because he expected to be watched. Younger belts took their emotional cues from him. Now nobody moved toward him. Even Aaron Kim, the blue belt Derek had swept earlier, sat silently with one hand on his knee, staring at the mat as if he were remembering all the times he had laughed after being hurt, because laughing felt safer than objecting. Derek's face tightened.
You know what? Let's do it properly. No surprise angles, no little tricks. Real sparring. Master Tanaka's voice sharpened. No! Derek turned. Why not? Because this was never sparring. She agreed. She agreed to controlled movement after you pressured her in front of her nephew. The words struck the room harder than the fall had. Derek's mouth opened, but for 1 second, nothing came out. Master Tanaka continued. That is not consent. That is ego wearing a smile. Maya looked down. She knew that sentence was not only for Derek. It was for everyone who had watched, including her. Derek's pride fought for air.
So I'm the villain now? Naomi said nothing. Master Tanaka did. You are a black belt behaving like a bully. The dojo went still again. There are insults that sound loud because of anger, and there are truths that sound loud because nobody can deny them. Derek's face darkened. I have given years to this dojo. Yes, Master Tanaka said. That is why this matters. I help teach. You help students fear mistakes. Derek looked toward the students. A few looked away, not all. Maya did not. Aaron did not. Ethan did not. The boy who had walked in with his hood up now stared directly at the black belt who had mocked him. Naomi noticed and felt something inside her ache. That was why she had stepped on the mat, not to beat Derek, to let Ethan witness a different kind of strength. Derek pointed toward Naomi again. Ask her who she is. Master Tanaka's gaze shifted to Naomi. He had been thinking the same thing, though not for Derek's reasons. There was a memory tugging at him. A national final. A name spoken in tournament halls. A fighter who did not dominate with power, but with timing so clean it made stronger opponents look as if they had tripped over their own intentions. He had seen her once, maybe twice. Then she vanished. Ms. Brooks, he said carefully. Who was your teacher? Naomi's jaw tightened. For the first time that night, the question reached somewhere she did not want the room to enter. No one you need to know. Master Tanaka nodded, accepting the boundary. Derek scoffed. Convenient. Maya snapped. Derek, stop talking. He turned on her. You've been waiting for this, haven't you? Maya's face flushed. For what? For me to look bad? No, she said, voice shaking now. I've been waiting for you to realize you make other people feel small so you can feel like a teacher. The words surprised her as much as they surprised the room, but once they came out, there was no putting them back. Derek stared at her. Maya swallowed, then continued. When I missed that counter in July, you threw me in front of the teen class and told everyone, this is why hesitation gets punished. I had bruises for a week. Derek's eyes narrowed. That was training. No, it was punishment. Aaron Kim stood slowly. The movement drew every eye. He was quiet, usually careful, the kind of student who apologized when someone else stepped on his foot. I laughed earlier when you swept me, Aaron said. Derek looked relieved for half a second, thinking Aaron might defend him. Then Aaron added, I laughed because I didn't want people to know it hurt. The room changed. There it was. The thing nobody wanted to say because saying it made the dojo responsible, not just Derek. Master Tanaka closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, something heavy sat in his expression. A teacher can miss a student's pain by calling it toughness. That realization is not gentle. Derek shook his head. This is ridiculous. You're all acting like I hurt people for fun. No one answered. The silence did. Clara, the front desk assistant, stepped to the counter and pulled out a blue binder labeled Incident and Safety Log. She did not open it yet. She only placed it on the desk. Derek saw it.
What is that supposed to mean? Clara's voice stayed professional. It means we document safety concerns. You're documenting this? The security camera already is. Everyone looked toward the camera above the code of conduct. Red light, blinking. Derek's face stiffened. He had never cared about that camera before. It had been installed after a parent insurance complaint the previous winter, part of Crescent Lake Dojo's new safe mat policy. Derek had joked about it when it went up. "Smile for the lawsuit," he had said. No one was laughing now. Master Tanaka turned to Clara. "Time?" She checked the desk tablet. Initial challenge began at approximately 6:14 p.m. First fall at 6:18, second controlled pin at 6:20.
The waiver for Ms. Brooks was not processed. Master Tanaka nodded once. "Make an entry." Derek's voice rose.
For what? I didn't injure anyone.
Naomi finally spoke.
No, you tried to embarrass someone you thought could not answer.
Derek looked at her.
I was joking.
Naomi shook her head.
No, you were safe.
He frowned.
What does that mean? You chose me because you thought I was safe to mock. You chose my nephew because he looked too scared to speak. You chose this room because you knew students laugh when black belts laugh. Every word landed cleanly, not shouted, not sharpened by anger. That made them harder to deflect. Derek's face shifted. For the first time, something like uncertainty passed through him. Then pride shoved it away. You don't know me. Naomi stepped closer, still outside striking range. I know the type of strength that needs an audience. Derek's hand twitched. It was small, almost nothing. But Master Tanaka saw it. So did Naomi.
Derek was not going to strike her in rage. He was too disciplined for that, and too aware of the room. But his body wanted to prove something before his mind admitted defeat. He shifted his weight forward, half a step, just enough to suggest another grab, another test, another chance to turn the story. Master Tanaka said, "Derek?" Derek moved anyway. Not a full attack, not something he could not later call accidental. A quick step and reach toward Naomi's shoulder. Fast, petty, dangerous because it came after the stop. Naomi did not hurt him. That was the part Ethan would remember. She could have. Everyone saw that, too. Instead, she pivoted, caught Derek's wrist with 2 fingers and the heel of her palm, turned his force across his own center line, and placed him kneeling on the mat so gently that the control looked almost impossible. His arm extended, his balance trapped, his knee down, his head lower than hers. Stop. Everything froze. Naomi stood beside him, not above him, holding only enough pressure to prevent movement. You lost control after the teacher said stop, she said softly. Derek's breathing was loud. Master Tanaka's face had gone still. Maya's hand covered her mouth. Ethan stood near the edge of the mat, eyes wide, but no longer with fear. Naomi released Derek and stepped back. Derek remained kneeling. No one told him to get up. Master Tanaka walked to the center of the mat and bowed to Naomi. Deeply. Not as a courtesy, as recognition. The room inhaled. Derek looked up, stunned. A master of the dojo had bowed to the woman he mocked. Naomi looked uncomfortable. She returned the bow, smaller, controlled. Master Tanaka straightened. Ray Ellis taught you. Naomi's face changed. The name struck like a bell inside an empty room. Ray Ellis, her coach, her mentor. The man who had written, "Strength is not the problem, ego is," on the back of her photograph. The man who had stood beside her after the final when cameras wanted a monster and Ray kept saying, She followed the rules. The boundary failed. Do not turn a woman's excellence into a crime because the injury frightens you. No one in the dojo knew any of that, but they heard the silence that followed his name. Naomi looked down. Yes. Master Tanaka's voice softened. I knew Ray. Derek slowly got to his feet. His face was still red, but now anger had mixed with confusion. Maya took out her phone, not to record, to search. She typed quickly, hands shaking. Ray Ellis, Naomi Brooks, martial arts. Results loaded. Old articles, tournament listings, a grainy photo from 2015. Maya's eyes widened. She clicked the image. There Naomi was, younger, white gi, black belt, gold medal. Headline: The Quiet Storm Advances to National Final. Maya's breath caught. Aaron leaned closer. What? Maya did not answer at first. She scrolled. Another article, another photo. Then the archived commission report. PNW-2015-Final-M3. Naomi Brooks cleared of misconduct after championship injury. Maya looked from the phone to Naomi. The woman standing on the mat in a plain black t-shirt was not a beginner. She was not even just trained. She was the name older fighters still spoke carefully. Maya whispered it before she could stop herself. Naomi Brooks. The room heard. Master Tanaka closed his eyes once, as if the missing piece had finally settled. Derek stared at Naomi. What? Maya lifted her phone slightly. She's Naomi Brooks. No one laughed. A few students began searching too. Phones came out, despite the no filming rule, not to capture her humiliation now, but to understand who had been standing in front of them. Naomi's shoulders tightened. She had not wanted this. Not the name, not the headlines, not the old injury dragged under bright lights again. Ethan looked at her. Aunt Naomi? His voice was soft. Hurt, not because she had lied, but because he had never known there was a whole room of her life hidden from him. Naomi turned toward him. She wanted to explain. Not here, not in front of Derek, not with old articles waking up in strangers' hands. But the past had entered the dojo, and it had not asked permission. Master Tanaka stepped between Naomi and the room. Phones down. This time, no one argued. One by one, the phones lowered. Maya lowered hers last, ashamed. I'm sorry, she whispered. Naomi looked at her and gave the smallest nod. Master Tanaka turned to Derek. You challenged a guest for entertainment. You ignored a stop instruction. You attempted another engagement after consent was withdrawn. Under Crescent Lake's safe mat policy, your assistant instructor privileges are suspended, pending review. Derek's face went blank. Suspended? Yes. Master, you can't. I can, and I should have corrected you sooner. The words stopped Derek more effectively than any pin. Master Tanaka looked around the room. All advanced students will remain after open house. We will discuss what happened, why it happened, and why a dojo that teaches control allowed admiration to become permission. His eyes moved briefly to Maya, then Aaron, then the parents, then himself. This is not only Derek's lesson. Naomi picked up her gray hoodie from the chair. Ethan stepped toward her. Are we leaving? She looked at the youth registration form still on the desk, then at the mat, then at Master Tanaka. I don't know yet. Ethan nodded, but his face fell. She saw it. The boy had come here because he was tired of being afraid. Now he had learned his aunt was someone powerful.
But he had also learned power came with history, silence, and pain. Naomi crouched in front of him. "I should have told you more." He whispered, "Why didn't you?" Her throat tightened. "Because some stories still hurt when they move." Ethan looked past her at Derek.
"Did you stop because you hurt someone?" The dojo held its breath. Naomi closed her eyes for 1 second. There it was, the question she had been avoiding for 9 years. When she opened them, she did not look away from Ethan. "Yes," she said. "And no." He frowned. Naomi took his hands. "I'll tell you the truth, not the internet version. Mine." Master Tanaka heard that and nodded once. Then he looked at Derek, still standing near the center of the mat, stripped not of his belt, but of the story he had told himself about what it meant. And Derek, surrounded by students who no longer laughed on command, finally looked smaller than the boy he had mocked. Part 4. The Reveal and Authority Shift. No one at Crescent Lake Dojo moved for almost 10 seconds after Master Tanaka said the word suspended. Derek Lawson stared at him as if he had misunderstood the language. Suspended, not corrected, not warned, not told to cool down. Suspended. For a black belt who had built his identity on being untouchable inside that room, the word struck harder than Naomi's technique ever had. "Master," Derek said, forcing a laugh that failed halfway through. "You're overreacting." Master Tanaka did not answer immediately. He walked to the front wall where the code of conduct hung beneath the security camera. The red recording light blinked above the words as if the building itself had been watching. Control before power. Respect before rank. Humility before victory. Master Tanaka pointed to the first line. "You violated this." Then the second. "You violated this." Then the third. "You forgot this." The dojo was silent. Derek looked toward the students, searching again for the old version of the room. The version where someone would smirk, someone would shrug, someone would say, "Come on, it was just Derek being Derek." But that room was gone. Maya stood near the desk with her phone down and her face pale. Aaron Kim remained beside the wall, still holding his shoulder from the earlier sweep Derek had called training. Parents watched from the folding chairs. 2 younger students stood close to each other, whispering nothing, because even they could feel the air had changed. Naomi did not look victorious. That confused people. She had been mocked. She had been challenged. She had been underestimated. She had put the dojo's most arrogant black belt on the mat 3 times without injuring him. But she did not smile. She did not stand taller. She looked tired. Ethan noticed that before anyone else. "Aunt Naomi?" he said. She turned. The room had found her name online, but Ethan was the only person who had the right to use it like that. Naomi walked to him and knelt until her eyes were level with his. "I'm okay." He shook his head slightly. "Were you famous?" The question cut through every adult performance in the room. Derek's defensiveness, Maya's guilt, Master Tanaka's authority, Naomi's silence. "Were you famous? Not, did you win? Not, did you hurt someone? Not, why didn't you tell me?" Just the simple confusion of a child realizing someone he loved had once belonged to a world he had never seen. Naomi took a slow breath. "For a little while." "Why did you stop?" Her eyes lowered to his bruised wrist. "Because I forgot how to look at my own strength without being afraid of it." Ethan did not understand fully, but he understood enough to step closer. Master Tanaka looked toward the office door. "Ms. Brooks, Ethan,
please come with me for a few minutes. Maya, stay. Clara, lock the front door after the last parent exits. Advanced students remain. We are not continuing normal class tonight. Derek's head snapped up. So this is a hearing now? Master Tanaka turned to him. No, this is a dojo remembering what it is supposed to be. At 6:37 p.m., Crescent Lake Dojo closed its front door to new visitors. The paper open house sign still hung outside, but inside, the room had shifted from demonstration to reckoning. Parents of beginner children were politely dismissed with an email promised by morning. Clara wrote down names of witnesses on the check-in sheet. The security camera continued recording. The blue incident and safety log sat open on the front desk. Entry: October 18th, 6:14 to 6:23 p.m. Subject: Unapproved public challenge during youth open house. Involved: Derek Lawson, assistant instructor; Naomi Brooks, visitor; Ethan Brooks, prospective youth student. Witnesses: Master K. Tanaka, Maya Rivera, Aaron Kim, Clara Jensen. Open house attendees. Video. Camera 2, front mat. Derek watched Clara write. Each word looked small. Each word made the night harder to erase. In the small tea room behind the office, the air was warmer. There were 4 low chairs, a square table, a shelf of old martial arts books, and a framed photograph of Master Tanaka in 1989 receiving a teaching certificate from the Northwest Martial Arts Federation. Naomi sat with Ethan beside her. Her hoodie lay folded over her lap. The white belt from her bag was hidden inside the hoodie pocket, but she felt its shape against her palm. The old cloth had become an anchor. Master Tanaka placed a cup of tea in front of her. "I knew Ray Ellis," he said. Naomi looked at the steam rising from the cup. "He never mentioned you." He would not have. Ray only mentioned people if there was a lesson attached. For the first time that night, something like a smile almost reached Naomi's face. "That sounds like him." Master Tanaka sat opposite her. "He brought a young fighter to a seminar in Tacoma once, maybe 2013. She did not speak much. She moved as if she was listening to the mat." Naomi looked up. "You were there?" "I was one of the judges for the advanced demonstration." She remembered now, a small gym, blue mats, rain against metal doors, Ray standing beside her telling her not to chase approval from judges because judges were only people with clipboards. Master Tanaka continued. 2 years later, I heard about Seattle." Ethan looked between them. "What happened in Seattle?" Naomi closed her eyes. The room became the arena again. Pacific Northwest Martial Arts Championship, Seattle Convention Center, March 14th, 2015. Mat 3. Final round. Case file PNW-2015-FINAL-M3. The old details were still inside her, organized like evidence. "I was in a final match," she said. "My opponent's name was Lena Voss. She was strong, fast, brave. We were both tired. There were 30 seconds left." Her thumb rubbed the seam of her hoodie. "She attacked near the boundary. I countered. The mat shifted. Her foot landed half on the edge, half off. She fell badly." Ethan whispered, "Did she die?" Naomi opened her eyes immediately. "No, she lived. She recovered. But she was hurt badly." "Was it your fault?" That was the question. The one headlines had screamed, the one strangers had answered without being there, the one Naomi had answered differently depending on how late at night it was. Master Tanaka did not interrupt. Naomi looked at Ethan. The official review said I did not break the rules. It said the boundary was unsafe, the referee was late stopping the exchange, and the technique was legal. She swallowed. But someone still got hurt while I was trying to win. And after that, winning felt different. Ethan looked down. Naomi continued, softer. People argued about me online. Some defended me, some called me dangerous. Some said I was too aggressive. Some said a woman like me should not fight like that. The commission cleared me, but I could still hear the sound she made when she hit the floor. The tea room was silent.
Then Ethan asked, "Did she blame you?" Naomi's eyes filled, though no tears fell.
No.
That answer hurt more than he expected. "Lena sent me a letter 3 months later," Naomi said. "She said, 'Do not let people turn an accident into your identity.' Did you listen?" Naomi looked at the cup.
No.
Master Tanaka's voice was quiet. "Ray told me you disappeared."
I needed to.
"Maybe." She looked at him then. He did not soften the next words. "But disappearing from ego is wisdom. Disappearing from purpose is grief wearing a uniform." Naomi looked away. The sentence found the place she had kept closed. Outside the tea room, voices rose. Derek's voice. "I'm telling you, she should not have been allowed on the mat. If she's Naomi Brooks, then she knew exactly what she was doing. She baited me." Master Tanaka stood slowly. Naomi's face hardened. Ethan's shoulders tightened again. Master Tanaka opened the tea room door. Derek stood near the front desk with Maya, Aaron, Clara, and 6 advanced students around him. His belt was still tied, but it no longer looked like armor. It looked like cloth trying to hold together a collapsing story. Maya had the archived commission report open on her phone. "She was cleared," Maya said. Derek pointed at the screen. "Cleared legally doesn't mean safe." Naomi stepped out behind Master Tanaka. Derek looked at her. "There she is." Master Tanaka's voice cut in. "Careful." Derek laughed bitterly. "No. Everyone wants truth? Let's have truth. She comes in here pretending to be some random aunt, then humiliates me in front of everyone, and now we're supposed to act like she's a hero because she used to be a champion?" Naomi did not answer. Derek turned to the room. "You all saw her. That wasn't normal control. That was someone with a history of hurting people." The room stiffened. Maya looked horrified. "Derek." "No," he snapped. "You wanted me to face myself? Fine. I'm saying what everyone is thinking." Nobody moved, because that was not what everyone was thinking. That was what Derek needed them to think so he could survive himself. Naomi stepped forward 1 pace. "Lena Voss was injured in a sanctioned final because of a boundary failure during a legal exchange. She said so herself." Derek scoffed. "Convenient." Maya looked down at her phone. "Actually, there's a statement." Everyone turned. Maya swallowed. "It's attached to the archived review." Master Tanaka nodded. "Read it." Maya's voice shook, but she read. "I, Lena Voss, state that Naomi Brooks did not act with malice or illegal intent. The injury occurred during a legal counter near an improperly secured boundary. I request that no disciplinary action be taken against Ms. Brooks. She competed honorably." Maya lowered the phone. The dojo was so quiet that the heater clicking on near the back wall sounded loud. Derek's face changed. Not enough. But something cracked. Naomi looked at him. "You tried to use another woman's injury as a shield for your behavior tonight." Derek opened his mouth. No words came. Naomi continued. "That is not concern for safety. That is desperation. Master Tanaka turned to Clara. Please print the archived review link and attach it to tonight's incident file. Clara nodded. Already emailed to the office printer. Derek looked from one face to another. You're building a file against me? Master Tanaka answered. You built the file. We are finally reading it. That line silenced him. Aaron stepped forward. His voice was quiet, but this time it did not shake. Master, there should be other entries. Derek's eyes snapped toward him. Aaron? Aaron looked at him and did not look away. Last month, during Thursday sparring, Derek told the teens to keep going after I tapped because he said I needed to learn not to panic. I tapped twice. Master Tanaka's face went still. Date? September 12th, around 7:30 p.m. Clara wrote it down. Maya inhaled. August 9th, she said. He paired me with Liam after I asked not to spar heavy because my wrist was recovering. Derek said, "Fear makes injuries worse." I didn't report it. Why? Master Tanaka asked. Maya's eyes filled. Because I wanted my promotion recommendation. There it was, the silence behind the silence. Derek had not ruled the dojo only with strength. He had ruled it with access, recommendations, approval, status. The power to make students feel brave or small. Master Tanaka absorbed this with visible pain. A teacher's failure sometimes arrives in the voices of students who finally speak. He bowed his head. I owe you an apology. Maya blinked. Aaron looked down. Master Tanaka continued. I thought I was correcting Derek through private warnings. I thought talent could be guided slowly. But while I waited, some of you learned that rank mattered more than safety. He looked at Naomi. And tonight, Brooks had to demonstrate control in a room where I should have already enforced it. Naomi did not rush to comfort him. Accountability deserved space. Derek's voice was quieter now. So what happens to me? Master Tanaka turned. Effective immediately, you are removed from all assistant teaching duties. You may not lead drills, supervise minors, sign promotion notes, or participate in sparring until the Safety Review Committee meets. Derek swallowed. The committee? Yes. Clara will notify the Northwest Martial Arts Federation because your assistant instructor credential is registered through them. Case reference will be CLD-SAFE-1018. Derek stared at him. You're reporting me? I am required to report repeated safety concerns involving minors and assistant instruction. You never reported before. Master Tanaka's face tightened. That was my failure. It ends tonight. Derek looked around the room. No one spoke for him. Maya's silence was no longer fear. Aaron's silence was no longer shame. Naomi's silence was no longer avoidance. It was judgment without cruelty. And it was heavier than humiliation. Ethan stepped closer to Naomi. Can we still come here? The question surprised everyone. Naomi looked at him. Do you want to? He hesitated. Then he looked at the code of conduct on the wall. If they mean that. Master Tanaka heard him. So did every student. If they mean that. A child had named the whole problem more clearly than the adults. Master Tanaka walked to the wall, took the framed code of conduct down, and placed it on the front desk. Everyone watched. Then he said, Tomorrow morning, this will not be decoration. Every student will sign it again. Every instructor will sign a new safe mat agreement. And if we do not live it, we do not deserve to hang it. Naomi looked at Ethan.
For the first time that day, his shoulders were not curled forward. The boy was still nervous, still bruised, still small in a room of belts and adults.
But he was standing. Derek looked at him too. Really looked. Maybe for the first time, not as an easy target, not as a prop for a joke, as the child who had watched him fail at the one thing martial arts was supposed to teach first: control. Derek untied his black belt slowly. No one told him to. He folded it once and held it in both hands. His voice was barely audible. "I don't know who I am without this." Naomi looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "Then maybe you finally have a chance to learn." Derek's eyes lifted. There was no forgiveness in her face, not yet. But there was no hatred either. That almost made it worse. Master Tanaka looked toward the mat. "Everyone sit." The advanced students sat along the edge. Maya sat. Aaron sat. Derek hesitated. Then he sat too, holding the folded belt in his lap. Naomi remained standing with Ethan beside her. Master Tanaka turned to the room. "Tonight we saw 3 kinds of strength. The strength that performs, the strength that controls, and the strength that tells the truth after being silent too long." His eyes moved to Derek. "Only one of those belongs at the center of a dojo." The room understood, and Derek Lawson, who had started the evening by daring a quiet woman to fight for fun, now sat barefoot on the mat, stripped of applause, listening to the woman he mocked teach the lesson he should have learned before earning black. Part 5. The Reckoning, Legacy, and Tay. The next morning, Crescent Lake Dojo did not open at 8 a.m. For the first time in 12 years, Master Kenji Tanaka canceled Saturday fundamentals. The sign on the front door was simple: "Classes paused for safety review. All members will receive an email before noon." Behind the glass, the mats were empty. No bare feet, no shouted counts, no belts snapping in the air. Only Master Tanaka, Clara Jensen, Maya Rivera, Aaron Kim, and Derek Lawson sat inside the dojo office, around a rectangular folding table that had been pulled from storage. Naomi Brooks was not there. Ethan was not there. That mattered. This was no longer about forcing the woman Derek had humiliated to educate everyone who had failed to stop him. This was about the dojo looking at itself without using her presence as a shortcut to redemption. At 8:27 a.m., Clara connected her laptop to the wall monitor. On the screen was the incident file. Case reference CLD-SAFE-1018. Date: October 18th. Location: Crescent Lake Dojo, 1147 Meridian Avenue, Portland, Oregon. Primary concern: unapproved public challenge, misuse of assistant instructor status, unsafe conduct during youth open house. Video evidence: Camera 2, front mat, 6:14 p.m. to 6:24 p.m. Witnesses: Master Kenji Tanaka, Clara Jensen, Maya Rivera, Aaron Kim. Open house attendees, parents, youth visitors. Derek stared at the words. They looked worse in black and white. Not because they exaggerated, because they did not. There was no drama in the file, no insult, no revenge, no opinion dressed up as law. Just timestamps, actions, names, and consequences. That was harder to fight. Clara clicked play. The security footage appeared. There was Naomi at the front desk, holding the clipboard. Ethan beside her, hood up, shoulders small. Derek entered the frame, smiling, towel around his neck. There was no audio in the first 10 seconds, just movement. Then the room audio began. "You look like you came for the beginner self-defense class." Derek looked away from the screen. Master Tanaka did not let him. "Watch."
The footage continued. Derek's jokes, the students laughing, Maya trying to interrupt, Naomi declining. Derek stepping onto the mat anyway, Ethan lowering his head. Then Naomi removing her hoodie. Derek's face tightened as he watched himself. He had remembered the night as unfair. The video made that impossible. It showed what memory had tried to soften. He had not been playful. He had been hunting applause. When the first exchange came, Derek saw what everyone else had seen. Naomi did not embarrass him. She avoided him. He stumbled because he overcommitted. He looked back at the room before looking at her, already searching for a way to protect the image instead of learning from the mistake. Then came the second exchange, then the third, the one after Master Tanaka said, "Stop." Derek watched his own body step in anyway. Small, fast, deniable, ugly. The room was silent when Clara paused the video. Master Tanaka looked at him. "Do you still believe this was harmless?" Derek's hands tightened under the table. No. It was the first honest answer he had given since Naomi walked in. Master Tanaka nodded once. Not approval, acknowledgement. Maya sat across from Derek, her green belt folded beside her. She had not worn it that morning. Neither had Aaron. Master Tanaka had asked every advanced student attending the review to come without a belt. "If rank is part of the harm," he had said, "we will discuss the harm without wearing it." Derek hated that at first. Then he saw the empty space around his own waist and understood how much of his confidence had been tied to cloth. Clara opened the second section of the file. Additional safety concerns reported after incident. Aaron spoke first. His voice shook, but he did not stop. September 12th, Thursday, sparring. I tapped twice. Derek told Liam to keep pressure because I needed to learn not to panic. Derek looked down. Aaron continued. I didn't report it because I thought maybe I was weak. Master Tanaka closed his eyes briefly. Maya spoke next. August 9th, partner rotation. I said my wrist was still recovering. Derek paired me with a heavier student anyway and said fear makes injuries worse. Her voice steadied as she went on. June 21st, teen class. He told a new girl that crying on the mat was attention-seeking. She never came back. Clara added the name from the old registration record. Sophia Hill, age 13, trial student. The name sat in the room. Not a statistic, a child. Derek whispered, I didn't know she quit because of that. Maya looked at him. You didn't ask. That was the whole problem. Derek had always measured impact by intention. If he meant toughness, then pain became training. If he meant humor, then shame became a joke. If he meant discipline, then fear became the student's weakness. But the mat had recorded impact. So had the people. At 10:15 a.m., the Northwest Martial Arts Federation compliance officer joined by video call. Her name was Denise Alvarez. She appeared on Clara's laptop wearing glasses and a navy blazer, with a bookshelf behind her and a folder labeled Member Safety Complaints on her desk. I have reviewed the preliminary file and the video excerpt, she said. Mr.
Lawson, your assistant instructor credential is placed under temporary suspension pending full review. You are not permitted to supervise minors, lead drills, conduct sparring, or represent Crescent Lake Dojo as instructional staff until this matter is resolved. Derek nodded. His face was pale. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Alvarez continued. Master Tanaka, the Federation will also review whether prior concerns were underreported. This is not only about Mr. Lawson. Master Tanaka bowed his head. I understand. No, she said. I need you to state it plainly. He looked up. I allowed private correction to substitute for formal accountability. That was wrong. Maya looked at him. Aaron looked at him. Derek looked at him too. For the first time, the teacher was not standing above the mistake. He was standing inside it. Ms. Alvarez nodded. Good. By Monday at 5 p.m., submit an updated SafeMat policy, instructor conduct agreement, youth protection procedure, and escalation process for student complaints. Until approved, all sparring classes are suspended. Clara typed the deadline, Monday, 5 p.m. Pressure made vague promises become real. By noon, every family on the dojo email list received a message. Subject: Important Safety Review and Policy Update. Crescent Lake Dojo. Master Tanaka wrote it himself. No excuses, no misunderstanding, no isolated incident to protect reputation. Last night, during our community open house, a visitor and child were placed in an inappropriate and disrespectful situation by a member of our assistant instructional staff. The conduct violated the values posted on our wall and the trust families place in this dojo. We are conducting a formal safety review, suspending sparring activities until updated procedures are approved, and creating a confidential reporting channel for students and parents. Respect is not a slogan here. If we cannot enforce it, we have no right to teach it. Clara read the email twice before sending. Then she looked at Master Tanaka. This will cost us students. He nodded. Maybe it should. That evening, Naomi sat alone in her apartment with the white belt on the kitchen table. Ethan had gone home with Rochelle after asking 100 questions in the car, then asking none at all. Children know when a story is too large to swallow in one sitting. Naomi had promised him the truth. So she had told him enough. Not the headlines, not the comments, not the strangers who called her dangerous without knowing the sound of the mat shifting beneath Lena's foot. She told him about competition, about pressure, about how wanting to win can become a room with no windows if you do not open one yourself. She told him Lena had recovered. She told him Lena had written a letter. She told him she stopped training because fear convinced her that leaving was the same as healing. Ethan had listened quietly. Then he asked, "Do you miss it?" Naomi had not answered for a long time. Now, alone at the table, she answered the empty room. Yes. The word hurt. She opened the cedar box she had brought from her bedroom and removed Ray Ellis's photograph. On the back, the old sentence waited. Strength is not the problem. Ego is. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. For a moment, she thought it might be a reporter. Maya's online search had reopened old doors, and by morning, 2 martial arts blogs had posted vague rumors about Naomi Brooks appearing at a Portland dojo. She almost ignored it. Then she saw the message. This is Lena Voss. Master Tanaka contacted me only to ask permission before referencing the old review in a safety training. I heard what happened. I am sorry your name got dragged into someone else's ego again. Naomi stared at the screen. 9 years. She had not spoken to Lena in 9 years. Another message appeared. For what it is worth, I meant what I wrote then. You did not ruin my life. Please stop letting people who are not there define yours. Naomi's vision blurred. She placed the phone face down and pressed both hands to the table. For years, she had treated her strength like a locked room because one terrible night had made her afraid to open it. But the room had never been empty. It held discipline. It held teaching. It held memory. It held Ethan's lifted head. It held the possibility that martial arts could still protect more than it harmed. On Monday at 4:46 p.m., Crescent Lake Dojo submitted its new policy packet to the Federation. Safe Mat Agreement. Youth Protection Procedure. Public Challenge Prohibition. Instructor Power and Consent Policy.
Confidential student reporting form. Quarterly safety audit requirement. Assistant instructor probation standards. The new rule was clear. No instructor or advanced student could publicly challenge, pressure, or demonstrate on an unregistered visitor, youth student, parent, or beginner without documented consent, processed waiver, instructor approval, and a stated educational purpose. Another rule was simpler. No humiliation as teaching. Master Tanaka printed that one and taped it beneath the code of conduct. 3 weeks later, Derek appeared before the dojo safety review committee. He wore plain training clothes, no black belt. The committee included Master Tanaka, Clara, Maya, a parent representative named Dr. Helen Cho, and Denise Alvarez from the Federation by video call. Aaron submitted a written statement. So did 2 former students, including Sophia Hill's mother. Derek listened to all of it, not perfectly. There were moments his jaw tightened, moments when he looked like he wanted to explain, moments when his pride still reached for old defenses. But he did not interrupt. That was new. At the end, Ms. Alvarez gave the decision. Mr. Lawson, your assistant instructor credential is revoked for 6 months. Reinstatement is not automatic. You must complete the Federation's Ethics in Instruction course, Youth Safety Certification, and 20 supervised beginner support hours with no sparring authority. You will also issue written apologies to affected students, reviewed by the committee before delivery. If you retaliate, minimize, or repeat this conduct, your credential will be permanently revoked. Derek swallowed. Yes, ma'am. Then Master Tanaka added the part that hurt him most. At Crescent Lake, you may remain as a student, not as an instructor, not as an example. A student. Derek looked down at his hands. A black belt forced to become a student again, not publicly destroyed.
Not casually forgiven. Return to the beginning, where humility should have stayed. Naomi did not attend that hearing. She read the decision later in an email Clara forwarded with permission. Subject: CLD-SAFE-1018. Resolution Summary. At the bottom, Clara had added a personal line. Ms. Brooks, I am sorry I watched too long before speaking. I hope the next time a room goes wrong, I find my voice sooner. Naomi read that sentence several times. Then she replied, That is where change starts. A month after the open house, Ethan returned to Crescent Lake Dojo for his first official class. He almost changed his mind in the car. His hand hovered over the door handle. What if people remember? Naomi parked along Meridian Avenue and turned off the engine. They will. That doesn't help. No, but it is honest. He looked through the windshield at the dojo sign. What if I freeze? Then you breathe. What if I still feel scared? Then you stand scared. He looked at her. She smiled gently. Standing scared counts. Inside, the dojo was different. Not dramatically, no grand renovation, no public shame wall, just small concrete changes. A check-in poster near the desk explained student rights. A locked comment box sat below it. The code of conduct had been rehung, but now every student's signature surrounded it on a wide, white mat board. The words, "No humiliation as teaching," were printed beneath in bold letters. Maya greeted Ethan at the desk. Welcome back. Ethan's shoulders tightened. Then he remembered. Breathe. Hi. Maya smiled. Your first class starts in 5 minutes. No sparring today. Just stance, falling safely, and how to say stop clearly. Ethan looked at Naomi. She nodded. Across the room, Derek was stacking pads near the wall. No black belt, plain white belt.
not because he had lost all rank formally, but because Master Tanaka had required him to wear white during beginner support hours as a reminder that service came before status. Derek saw Ethan.
Then Naomi. He stopped stacking pads. For a second, old shame crossed his face. Then he walked over slowly, keeping distance. "Miss Brooks," he said. Naomi nodded. "Derek?" He turned to Ethan. "I owe you an apology." Ethan looked uncertain. Derek continued. "When you came here, I made this place feel like the kind of room you were trying to stop being afraid of. I used my belt to make myself look big and you look small. That was wrong." Ethan did not answer. Derek accepted the silence. "I'm not asking you to say it's okay." Naomi watched carefully. That mattered. Derek looked at the mat. "I'm working on being different here. You don't have to trust that yet." Ethan studied him. Then he said, "Okay." Not forgiveness, not friendship. Just a child allowing the apology to exist without carrying it for him. Derek nodded and stepped back. Maya led the beginner group onto the mat. There were 8 students that evening, 3 children, 2 teenagers, 2 mothers, and 1 older man who said his doctor wanted him to improve balance, but admitted he also wanted to stop feeling afraid walking to his car at night. Master Tanaka stood at the front. Beside him stood Naomi. She had not planned to stand there. 2 weeks earlier, Master Tanaka had invited her to help design a youth confidence workshop. She had refused once, then again. Then she visited the dojo alone one morning and stood on the empty mat until the old fear stopped being the only voice in the room. She did not return as the quiet storm. She returned as Naomi Brooks. That was harder. She wore a simple white gi. Around her waist was not the black belt from the cedar box, but the old frayed white belt Ray had told her to keep. Everyone noticed. No one asked. Master Tanaka bowed to the class. "Today we begin with the most important technique in martial arts." One boy raised his hand. "Punching?" A few students smiled. Master Tanaka shook his head. "Stopping." He turned to Naomi. She stepped forward. Her voice was calm. "Real strength is not how fast you can hurt someone. It is how quickly you can control yourself when hurting someone would be easy." Ethan listened like every word had weight. Naomi continued. "Some of you are here because you have been bullied, some because you feel nervous, some because you want confidence. Confidence does not mean you never feel fear. It means fear no longer gets to choose your posture." She looked at Ethan then, not too long, just enough. The class began. They learned how to stand, feet under them, hands relaxed, eyes forward. They practiced saying "stop" in a voice that did not apologize for taking up air. At first, Ethan whispered it. Naomi knelt in front of him. "Again? Stop. Again? Stop. From your belly, not your throat." He inhaled. "Stop." The room heard him. Ethan heard himself. His eyes widened. Naomi smiled. "There you are." Across the room, Derek was helping the older man practice a safe fall. He moved carefully, almost too carefully, asking permission before touching an elbow, explaining each step, checking after each attempt. Maya watched him for a moment. Then she returned to her own group. Change did not need applause. It needed repetition. Week by week, Ethan came back. The first week, he learned how to fall without panic. The second, how to keep balance when pushed. The third, how to step away from pressure instead of freezing under it. The fourth, he told Naomi that Mason Reed, one of the boys from school, had bumped him in the hallway and laughed. "What did you do?" Naomi asked.
Ethan looked down, then up. I said, "Don't touch me." "And?" "He called me weird." "And?" "I walked to Mr. Alvarez, the hall monitor. I reported it." Naomi nodded. "Good." I was shaking. Standing scared counts. He smiled a little.
Yeah.
2 months later, Crescent Lake Dojo held its first restorative safety night. Not a tournament, not a belt test, a community meeting. Parents came, students spoke. Clara presented the reporting process. Maya led a demonstration on consent in partner drills. Aaron talked about tapping and why stopping when a partner taps is not weakness, but trust. Derek stood near the back until Master Tanaka called him forward. He walked to the front in his white belt. The room was not hostile. That almost made it harder. He unfolded a piece of paper. "I used to think being respected meant people were impressed by me," he read. "So I performed strength. I made jokes. I pushed harder than I needed to. When people laughed, I thought it meant they agreed. When people stayed quiet, I thought it meant I was right." His voice shook. "I was wrong. Silence is not always agreement. Sometimes it is fear. Sometimes it is disappointment. Sometimes it is people waiting for one person to be brave enough to say stop." Maya looked down. Aaron breathed slowly. Naomi stood beside Ethan near the wall. Derek continued. "I apologize to the students I made feel small. I apologize to Maya, Aaron, Sophia, Ethan, and Ms. Brooks. I am not asking for trust. I am asking for the chance to earn the kind of humility I should have had before I ever tied on a black belt." He lowered the paper. No one clapped immediately. Master Tanaka had asked them not to. Apologies were not performances either. Then Sophia Hill's mother stood. She did not hug him. She did not praise him. She only said, "I hope you mean it." Derek bowed. "I do." "Then keep meaning it when no one is watching." That became the real test. The months that followed did not turn Derek into a saint. Real change is not that neat. He still struggled when corrected. He still looked embarrassed when beginners made mistakes he once would have mocked. But now he caught himself.
He apologized faster. He listened longer. He learned that restraint after harm is not weakness. And Naomi learned something too. She learned that returning to a mat did not mean returning to the person she had been at 24. She could bring the fear with her. She could bring the grief. She could bring Ray's lesson, Lena's letter, Ethan's bruise, and the white belt that reminded her every expert begins vulnerable. One evening after class, Ethan stayed behind practicing his stance in the mirror. Naomi sat on the bench tying her shoes. He turned to her. "Do you think I'll ever be strong like you?" Naomi looked at him. The old answer would have been about training, hours, footwork, control, technique. But Ethan was asking something else. She stood and walked to him. "I hope you become stronger." His eyes widened. "Stronger than you?" "Yes." "How?" She adjusted his shoulders gently, by never needing to make someone else feel weak just to prove you're not. Ethan looked at himself in the mirror. For the first time, he did not look away quickly. The boy in the reflection was still small, still 11, still learning. But he was upright. Behind him, the dojo lights reflected across the polished floor. The security camera blinked above the code of conduct. The mat held the memory of falls, mistakes, apologies, and beginnings. Naomi looked at the wall. Control before power. Respect before rank. Humility before victory. This time, the words did not feel like decoration. They felt like work. Work the dojo had finally agreed to do.
Before leaving, Naomi walked to the far wall where Master Tanaka had installed a new wooden display case. Inside were no trophies, no medals, no tournament photos. Only belts donated by students with a small card beneath each one explaining what they had learned. A child's yellow belt, Maya's old green belt, Aaron's blue belt.
A plain white belt from the beginner class. Naomi opened her bag and removed the black belt from the cedar box. For months, she had not known what to do with it. Hide it, wear it, burn it, frame it. Now she folded it carefully and placed it inside the case beside a handwritten card. This belt does not prove I am powerful. It reminds me to protect what power can touch. She closed the glass. Master Tanaka stood behind her. Ray would approve. Naomi looked at the belt. I think he would tell me the card is too dramatic. Master Tanaka smiled. Also true. They stood in comfortable silence. Then Naomi said, I thought leaving the mat meant I respected what happened. Maybe it did for a while. And now? Now respecting what happened means teaching the next person how not to repeat it. Naomi nodded. Across the room, Ethan laughed at something Maya said. It was not a loud laugh, but it was free. Naomi turned toward the sound. That was why she had come back. Not to prove Derek wrong, not to reclaim a title, not to make the room admire her. She came back because a child who had been pushed by lockers needed to learn that strength could be gentle, boundaries could be spoken, and silence did not have to mean surrender. The night Derek Lawson dared her to fight for fun, he thought he was choosing an easy target. He saw a black woman in old sneakers, a quiet aunt with a clipboard, a nervous boy at her side, and decided her dignity was available for demonstration. Seconds later, the dojo went silent. But the real lesson was not that Naomi could defeat him. The real lesson was that she did not need to destroy him to expose him. She used control where he used ego. She used calm where he used performance. She used strength as protection, not display. And because one woman refused to let a child learn the wrong lesson, an entire dojo had to decide whether its values were words on a wall or rules worth living. So if this story reminded you of someone who was underestimated because of how they looked, how quietly they spoke, or how little they tried to impress the room, write their name in the comments. Share this with someone who needs to remember that real power does not always shout. And subscribe for more stories where the overlooked stand tall, the arrogant learn too late, and the quietest person in the room turns out to be the one everyone should have respected from the beginning. Because a black belt can show what someone has earned, but humility shows who they have become. And sometimes, the strongest person on the mat is the one who could hurt you, but chooses to teach instead.